wearing
yellow.
yellow gold. But it doesn't feel too well to sit right opposite somebody wearing something looking like green. Welcome back anyway. Thank you very much, Mr. Dabo.
Thank you.
Before the break, you were talking about the first UDP rally in which you talked about the need to re-enthrone the rule of law in this country, the need to end the corruption of the Jammeh regime, in which you cited the theft of $3 million, in which you claim that you had affidavits suggesting that not only Ibu Jallow benefited, but also Yaya Jammeh, as the monies were deposited into Yaya Jammeh's account in a Swiss bank. Does that accurately summarize
That is correct.
the points we discussed?
That is correct.
You also talked about the need to investigate the murder of Mr. Kodosise, and you believe that the government refused to investigate the matter because they were covering up their own crime. That summarizes your statement on that particular issue, correct?
That is correct.
You also indicated that your statements about Kodosise or the need for an investigation were not received well by Mr. Edward Singate. He, in fact, had to report to the PIEC that this statement or this accusation should not be a campaign issue. It was a malpractice. That also characterizes what you said.
That is correct.
What position did Mr. Edward Singate occupy at that stage?
Well, at that time, he was the vice chairman of the junta. And in fact, I had even taken issue that on the dissolution of the AFPRC, his people cannot continue in government because there was nothing in any decree creating a transitional government that will be conducting the elections. I took up all those issues.
Can you explain how you took up that issue? What activities did you do?
Well, I said it
to challenge.
I said it at political gatherings and at press briefings.
But you did not go to court?
I did not go to court. Of course, I mean, then we were busy with the campaigns because the AFPRC dissolved immediately when political activities were to resume. So we were concentrating on the campaign.
And off the bat, the AFPRC were not happy with some of your campaign themes: corruption, murder, and all those negative allegations. How did they respond to how you were conducting your campaign over the period of the campaigning cycle?
Well, I certainly wasn't following what statements they were making in response to what I was saying, but one thing was very prominent. Yankuba Toure did say that when I return from the provinces, I'll be burnt.
Could you say that again?
Yankuba Toure did say that when I return from the provinces, I would be burnt.
Who is this Yankuba Toure you
He was a
to?
member of the junta.
A member of the AFPRC?
A minister.
Which ministry did he hold?
I believe then he was Minister for Local Government.
Did he hold any position?
He was the mobilizer.
AFPRC mobilizer?
The APRC mobilizer, national mobilizer, APRC.
And how did you perceive that statement?
Well, I thought it was a threat. believe that it was a threat, and I believe that it was a statement made to silence me. And of course, that made me more vociferous.
So you carried on your campaign. Did APRC take any steps against your campaign apart from that threat that Yankuba Toure made against you?
Well, we had met. When I say we, I think all the parties, our representative had met at the PIEC and had drawn up our campaign, program, the itinerary, that we are not supposed to be in the same area in order to avoid conflict. We submitted these things and they were approved. APRC started off.
Approved by who?
By the PIEC.
Good. Proceed, please.
APRC started on the North Bank. We are also supposed to start on the North Bank 2 days after. But then they intentionally delayed their campaign programs within the North Bank region. That forced us to really start our campaign in the West Coast region. And in West Coast region, we had to start it off in Basori so that we could gain time to go to Soma and then cross over to Farafenye and come to SL. Yeah. That was done to frustrate our campaign. And when we reached Karawan, in fact, before reaching Karawan, we ran into trouble in Farafenye. Seni Sabali, our strong man, one of our strong men in North Bank region, was arrested. And when we came to Karawan, then Muniri Dabo was the governor of North Bank region. When we arrived in Karawan, the APRC were creating problem for us. In fact, Siaka Sonko, the head of my security team, was so apprehensive. He said, look, I have to change my accommodation. And my response was that, look, if you can't protect me, I'll protect myself. I'm not moving out of this place. I stayed on. But then, I don't know how it happened. That night, Siaka was arrested and taken away. And then Keba Fati had to step in as chief of our security outfit. The following day, we met at the commissioner's office. There was, because we are protesting that the APRC, we are really going against the rules agreed by all the parties and the PIAC. That we could not accept that. At the commissioner's, at the governor's office, there was radio communication, between the governor and the police. Yeah? I don't know who he was talking to, but I believed it was the chief of police, FRI Jame then. And what I had said that if they don't agree, shoot them. Yeah? And
let's get that clear and on the record. You suggesting that the commissioner was speaking to someone in Banjul who you believe to have been the IGP.
The IGP.
And that person was FRI Jame.
Yes.
And what you heard the person say on the phone was shoot them if they do not.
If they do not agree, because what they were suggesting was that we should really reduce our campaign team, because we had 2 trucks, one of them occupied by boys who call themselves democracy, another occupied by boys who call themselves human rights. Yeah? And that, these were really the people.
With the support of democracy and human rights, you cannot lose an election.
Absolutely. And these were the people, who were really giving us protection, the leadership protection, But some reason, Mr. Jatta called Babukar Jatta. He was then the army commander, I believe he was the army commander. He called and I spoke to him and I told him what the situation was, and I was insisting that we will go ahead in the way we planned our campaign.
Okay.
There was an attempt to frustrate it by Yahya Jammeh and his group, going around in North Bank region. That was a very strong area for UDP, Badibus. Yeah? So they wanted to frustrate our campaigns in the area so they could stay there as long as they want. And they did the same thing in Same, stayed there as long as they wanted.
Okay. Mr. Dabo, this is very important. Political harassment in order to gain political capital is something that is to be arrested and ended in this country. So we want to examine all these tactics that were used by the APRC such that we can put a stop to these things from happening again. So we would want you to explain some of these tactics that were used. From your testimony, I understand that the two parties were not supposed to be at the same location at the same time.
That's correct.
Right. And this was pre-arranged with the PIEC, correct?
That's correct.
And both sides provided itineraries showing where they would be at what times.
That's correct.
And the party that is behind should not come to the same location as the party that is already ahead.
That's right.
So in the Badibus, your testimony suggests to me that the APRC were delaying their presence in particular locations to frustrate your arrival there.
To prevent us from getting to the area.
Okay.
Yes.
And another tactic you mentioned was the arrest of some of your members. You mentioned arrest of Seni Sabali in Farafenye.
That's right.
Could you tell us what he was arrested for?
Well, Seni Sabali was arrested because he was organizing the UDP campaign, or amongst the people organizing the UDP campaign in the North Bank region. Remember, he was the brother, or he is the brother of the former Vice President Sehu Sabali. And the revulsion that the APRC has for, the PPP and PPP ministers was so enormous that, it cascades down to the members of their family. So Seni Sabali, was being seen in the image of Sehu Sabali. So if you can't get Sehu Sabali, to torment him, get his brother, torment him, as long as he is not supporting the cause of the APRC.
Do you know whether Seni Sabali was charged with an offense?
I don't think he was not charged with any offense. In fact, he was taken to Janjambure, but was not charged with any offense.
Do you know for how long he was detained?
Well, he was detained, I think, even up to after the presidential elections. I'm not too sure about that, but I think so.
Was he ever presented before a court of law?
Not that I'm aware of.
So your belief is his detention was unlawful?
It was unlawful.
It was
politically motivated.
In order to
intimidate, the following of the United Democratic Party. That if a person of the stature of Seni Sabali can be taken away, detained, for as long as they wish, what should you weaker people, you the small ones, we could do, the same thing to you. It was all intended to intimidate.
How about Siaka Sonko?
Siaka Sonko, I believe the same thing. It was to intimidate him and to also to ensure that I do not have the professional security advice that I should be relying on during the course of my campaign.
At this particular period, the evidence we have also suggests that K. Messing was also arrested at around the same time. Is that the case?
That is the case. K. Messing was also arrested at around the same time because he is the person who is in charge of our campaign in the Lower River region. And of course, everyone in the Gambia knows how much Lower River region supports the United Democratic Party. So the key people, it was thought, should be arrested, detained, so that you frustrate the United Democratic Party in its campaign against the APRC.
So we have now gone through a few methods. One is delay their movement such that you cannot progress. That is one tactic. The second is arresting some of your members so that the others would feel intimidated. A third you have mentioned is personal threats that have been issued to the leadership. You agree with these three, that we've covered them so far?
Yeah, I agree entirely. In fact, with that statement made whilst we are in Karawan, when Babakar Jatta got in contact with me, he arranged for protection to be given to us. We had escort. The PIU personnel, headed by Captain Suare, really gave us escort from Karawan throughout the country. But I found during the course of the campaign that it was more apparent than real. And in fact, it also served as a means of frightening our supporters, because they would know of our next meeting place, and they would dispatch people there, some uniformed men, and they would threaten the people that they should not come out. So it was counterproductive, in as much as what was meant to protect, but then it was also undermining our campaign efforts.
Do you know who sent that group to come out to you and pretend to be your protectors when on the ground they're intimidating others? Who sent them?
Babakar Jatta sent the group, but I believe that he did so in all honesty and only sincerity to afford us protection. Because during the period that we are having problems with the APRC, Babakar Jatta had been my contact person. He would be the person that I would always contact, and he would really step in to soften some situations. So I think he did it honestly and sincerely. Probably some other person might have influenced Captain Suare and his people to behave in ways that was not intended by Jatta.
But with regards to that intimidation of your supporters by soldiers under the authority of Captain Suare, do you know whether Captain Suare was aware of what was going on?
No, I'm not sure of that.
Did you complain to Captain Suare or to Babakar Jatta?
No, I did not.
So you just went along knowing that this was the situation?
Yes.
All right. So during that tour, you eventually arrived in SL, did you?
Yeah, we eventually arrived in SL and held meeting in SL. And of course, it was not free of problems. It was not free of trouble.
What were the problems?
Some of our supporters who had crossed over from Banjul to SL were assaulted by APRC supporters.
Where were they assaulted?
In SL.
Do you know who led the group that assaulted?
I certainly do not know the particular individuals that led this group, but of course, then the people who assaulted who did the assaulting were APRC supporters, because UDP supporters wouldn't assault UDP supporters for any reason.
Apart from that argument, sensible as it is, do you have anything else to suggest that the assault was done by UDP supporters, by APRC supporters?
Oh, of course. UDP supporters did say that they were. In fact, my sister, Fatou Dabo, was one of the people who crossed over to SL to attend our rally there, and she said that they were assaulted by APRC supporters.
But did she provide anything to suggest or to buttress the cogency or the truthfulness of that statement?
She didn't provide any tangible, real evidence or otherwise, but I had absolutely no reason to doubt her assertion that they were assaulted by APRC supporters.
And these victims, do you know what injuries, if any, they suffered during that assault?
No, I wasn't told of any injuries sustained by anyone in SL. Our injuries were sustained towards the end of our campaign period, which was not in SL. Yeah?
Can you, from SL, you crossed into Banjul?
No. From SL, you see, it was like, coming from Basore, go to Farafenni, come to SL, and then going back into the provinces. That is how APRC put us in that terrible situation. We are supposed to leave SL, go straight up to Same, come back, cross at Janjambre, Basse, and then come through the west coast.
During that period, did the rest of the campaign in the provinces go smoothly, or did you encounter any difficulties?
Well, our campaigns really went on smoothly. When I say smoothly, we were happy. Attendance at our meetings at 4 a.m. Remember, this was in September. Yeah, what we would say, that was the time that the crops, really growing fast. In fact, coos, millet, and so forth. Could you imagine, 4 a.m. you find people at their bantaba waiting for us. Find people, in the villages that are not part of our program, people out there on the roadside waiting for us and asking us to have a meeting with them. We knew we had won that elections.
You believe you had won?
We knew we had won it. We not only believe, but we knew we had won it, and it was stolen from us. People who did so shamelessly.
We would come to that, Mr. Dabo. But before then, let's talk about the rights violations first, and then we would culminate into that point. So the rest of the campaign went smoothly until you arrived at the Denton Bridge on 22nd September 1996. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. In fact, when we got into the Canfield municipal area, particularly from Westfield, we are confronted with assaults. Some of our supporters in my party T-shirts were attacked, and T-shirts they wore torn, and I have no evidence, but I have claims that pregnant women were malhandled, and this assault continued until when we got by Denton, because there were a lot of vehicles. Our last meeting, because we didn't have a meeting in Banjul according to the itinerary, so we should have had a meeting in Banjul on the 22nd of September. And we are going to Banjul, but then we were laid in ambush at Denton Bridge.
Okay, before Denton Bridge, you said at at
Westfield.
Westfield, your group was attacked. Even a pregnant woman was malhandled. Or can you explain what you mean by that? What happened to this pregnant woman, as far as you recall, as far as you know?
Not that I saw it myself.
Fair enough.
That I was told.
Indeed,
I was told.
Yes, but let's get the details of what happened to this woman.
Yeah, that the T-shirt she wore, she was virtually undressed in public.
She was stripped of her clothes.
Because if you take off the T-shirt that a woman is wearing, you are really laying her bare, nude, in public, and not only, because I was told, not only was that done to her, but she was also beaten. She was also severely beaten. For the only reason, because she supports United Democratic Party.
Do you know whether all the supporters of the party who were present at that moment were also attacked and beaten?
Well, I cannot say whether there were other supporters were also attacked and beaten, but certainly there was what you could call a fight in the place.
You had democracy and human rights defending you.
Well, the democracy and human rights, they were ahead, because they would always go ahead to go to the meeting ground. They are the people who really suffered a lot at Denton Bridge, because they were in the forefront. If you call, they were the front, the head of the convoy, lead vehicles in the convoy. They had their drums in their vehicles. Each of the vehicles had a drummer, and one of them, that's it, I believe, democracy, they had Fabajo Dabo, I think from Kiang, I believe from Kiang Burong, his master drummer. He's Barawulo, he's whenever people in this area want to have a real Barawulo, they would ask Fabajo to come down. Yeah? And he was, in fact, he continuously drummed while as the vehicle, because I don't know how they managed it, but even attire, they were doing that in the vehicle. Yeah? They were the people who ran into the ambush. And
when the ambush was taking place, where exactly were you in the convoy?
Well, I must have been about 6 vehicles away. 6 vehicles away from the ambush,
And how many meters or kilometers would you estimate?
No, it wouldn't be kilometers. I think it, let's say, maybe about 500, 200. Not. I don't think it would be more than 200 meters.
So, from your position in the convoy, you were able to see?
No, I couldn't see right in front because it was at night. It was at night. It was not during the day. This was about 9 o'clock or so at night. It was dark in the area. And of course, when it became apparent to us that there was an ambush, and probably I was the principal target of the ambush, the security, Mr. Fati, advised that we should take a U-turn and go back to Pipeline. I was driving the vehicle with Dr. Sise. In fact, I was in Dr. Sise's car driving with him. So we drove and went back to Pipeline. But others like Sidia Sanyang, we are caught in the ambush.
So I take it from your testimony that you did not see the ambush exactly taking place.
No, I did not.
But did you later find out what happened during that ambush?
Well, I found out that these people in the human rights and democracy vehicles were all made to disembark the vehicles, and others were also made to disembark their vehicles, and they were really tortured, brutalized.
By who?
By the soldiers. And I was told that Yankuba Toure was amongst the people who were torturing and brutalizing these people.
Which Yankuba Toure are you referring to?
The national mobilizer for APRC.
What other position did he hold at the time?
He was minister, and I was told that not only because AFPRC had dissolved, I was told that he had put on military uniform. When according to the order dissolving the AFPRC, he was no longer a member of the Gambia Armed Forces.
This information, did you receive it from one person or from more than
one person? No, not
person?
from one person, from several people who were victims, who identified him as being amongst the people that carried out this ambush and maltreated them.
Mr. Dabo, you are a very senior lawyer in this country. You are under oath. You have occupied, in fact, the second highest position in government. You are sitting there talking to the Gambian people. Do you have any reason to doubt what your party militants told you about what happened at that bridge?
I do not have any reason to doubt it, and I will say why. I did ask that a judicial inquiry be held into the 22nd September incident at Denton Bridge, so that those people who were responsible for this malicious act can really be dealt with according to law. And the government gave it a deaf ear. That inquiry, people have appeared at that inquiry and give evidence and be subjected to cross-examination. But the government simply ignored it because they knew that it was something that they had arranged, that this was a way of really disturbing the UDP campaign and disrupting it to their own advantage.
As far as you know, from the information you gathered from your party supporters, who was responsible for the brutalization of your supporters at the bridge?
Well, I would say that Yahya Jammeh was their principal, and those at the bridge were his agents. And I say, que facit par alium par se facit.
In that case, could you translate what that means?
Yeah. He who does things through one another does it himself. So I think Yahya Jammeh was responsible for it.
And who were his agents?
His agents were those at the bridge, and as said by my supporters, one of them being Yankuba Toure.
In your statement, you indicated that Yankuba Toure and Edward Singate were responsible. In which context could Edward Singate be responsible?
Responsible in the context of being an agent, one of the agents.
Was he present there as far as
he was also mentioned.
So the suggestion is that Edward Singate was present, Yankuba Toure also was present.
They were mentioned, yes.
All right. So apart from calling for a government inquiry, did you complain to the PIEC?
Of course, we did complain to the PIEC about this, and it was, in fact, we even called a press conference on it. Yeah? And we did complain to the PIEC, but then nothing was done. And every year we try to celebrate 22nd September.
We would come to that celebration, the commemoration. But before then, what do you say to the suggestion by one of the persons accused as having been involved in this event, that no complaint was ever made to the PIEC about this incident, and that it was a surprise that years later you would go out and accuse Yankuba Toure of having been involved?
Well, I think that's a very fallacious suggestion. It is very factious and very nonsensical. We made the complaint, and in fact, we even made representations to embassies in this country.
What do you say if I tell you that it's in fact Yankuba Toure who made that statement,
well,
that this was never reported?
Well, yeah,
this allegation was a fabrication by none other than yourself.
Well, you didn't expect Yankuba Toure to say anything other than a self-serving statement. I have stated here that I did not myself see. If I meant to mislead, I would say that I saw things. But I've said I didn't see these things. These are things that are told to me, and I have absolutely no doubt about it.
So in essence, you are saying that Yankuba Toure is simply lying to protect himself?
He is simply saying these things in order to save himself, in order to cover himself up. We had made these statements in the past, and we continue to say it.
25 years on, you still maintain that it was Yankuba Toure and Edward Singate who were at the bridge with the soldiers and brutalized your supporters?
I maintain that it was Yankuba Toure, Edward Singate, and some other soldiers who brutalized my party supporters in support of Yahya Jammeh's campaign, in support of getting Yahya Jammeh re-elected, in support of supporting Yahya Jammeh to intimidate the Gambian people. And I say this, and I stand by it, that the people who told me this are people who really know Yankuba Toure, and they know Edward Singate. And of course, Sidi Asanya was one of the people whom they maltreated and had his middle finger broken.
And that brings us to the next point as to what happened to these people. What did they do to them? What does this brutalization entail?
Well, certainly it had some devastating, I believe it has some devastating effect on them. They received injury, they sustained injuries, and several of them were attended to by Dr. Sise. Some he admitted in his clinic, others he treated as outpatients. In fact, they sprawled under the mango and behind my house. That's where a lot of them were. Those whose injuries were very severe, he had to get them admitted for a few days. And I believe he has records.
Any fatalities as far as you know? Any fatalities as far as?
Well, not immediately. Well, certainly some people died, and I personally believe that they died because of the horrendous treatment that was made to them. One person that stands out very prominent is Kebute Jafune, drummer. He died not long after these incidents.
Within 1 year?
I believe it was within 1 year. I believe it was within 1 year. Yes.
Apart from Kebute Jafune?
Well, apart from Kebute Jafune, I don't know. There may be others that died. That because Kebute Jafune was really a very prominent person. He was one of the best singers, the Jalibas, here, and suddenly his death, cannot go unnoticed or not being announced to the leadership of the party. There may be others that have died.
Do you see any connection between what happened at Denton Bridge and the threat you received from Yankuba Toure?
Of course. Probably if I was caught in the ambush, I might have been burnt, as he had promised.
So you believe that the attack at the Denton Bridge was in keeping with the promise that Yankuba Toure gave, that figuratively you would be burnt?
Well, figuratively, yes, because certainly, disrupting my campaign, making sure that we do not really complete things as we should have done, was really literally, if not me personally being physically burnt, but my party, was being burnt and being deprived of the opportunity to pursue its political fortunes. And because of that, we couldn't even hold our last rally in the Combos. So our campaign came to a halt on the 22nd.
Thank you very much for that. And what happened to some of the other members of your party, the members of the West Coast UDP committee? Do you know what happened to them?
Well, okay, that was in 1997. But on 22nd September, 2 members of my party were also arrested and taken to the NIA.
Who were they?
They were Amadou Sane and Yankuba Diba.
Did anything happen to them while at the NIA or at the bridge, or anywhere else they may have been arrested from?
Well, they were really subjected to very cruel treatment, beating, and I was still searching in my old albums for the photograph of Amadou Sane and Yankuba Diba. Because immediately when they were released, I arranged for photograph to be taken of the state of their condition. And you could see deep lacerations on the back of Mr. Sane. And when I saw that, I just couldn't, because that's my kid brother, that anybody treating him that way for really exercising his constitutional right of belonging to another party in opposition to yours was most unacceptable.
I do believe that we have those pictures. In any case, Mr. Sane will testify, and he would be able to talk more about that particular incident. And tell us what happened in 1997.
Well, in 1997, the UDP was to hold its first Congress, because when the Constitution was submitted to the IEC, we had a provision that the persons who were designated as officials of the party would continue to be so until at the next Congress, or at the maiden Congress of the party, when the party members would now elect their leaders. And in preparation for that, West Coast region organized a regional congress in Brikama. And the people who were in charge of that congress, of the organization, were Singul Nyasi, Wasajane, Yusfa Cham, Bolon Sonko, Dembo Arasane, Sajo Kunjan Sane. Yes, I think these were the people who are in charge of organizing the Congress. the NIA came in, interrupted.
Who led them?
I don't know who led them because I wasn't there. Interrupted the Congress, arrested them, and took them to the NIA, where they were detained for several days. And when they were released, when the state in which they were was quite horrible, particularly Sadio Kunjansani had to invite Zotembo to come and see the physical conditions of these people. And she had to see Sadio Kunjansani in private.
Why is that?
Because he was a woman, and I guess it was necessary that she sees her in private. Yeah. So that Sadio could, really disclose to her what had happened to her. And when they came back into my office, the expressions on Zotembo's face was very grim, to me suggesting that Sadio Kunjansani was really treated in a way that no one should treat a woman.
Mr. Davo, it's nice to be politically correct or legally accurate, but just say it. Tell us, we want to know what happened.
No, actually, Zotembo did not tell me. Zotembo did not tell me.
So you
the sad thing about it, Sadio Kunjansani died afterwards, and the woman that I knew in 1996 at the launching of the United Democratic Party, the woman that I knew that was in my campaign team in 1996 was no longer the woman that was until her death.
Do you know, or did they really identify who brutalized them?
Well, they mentioned Daba Marena. The late Daba Marena was mentioned. They mentioned somebody called Bombardier. It's Camara.
Did they mention a first name?
No, they mentioned Bombardier, his nickname. And Bombardier, we all knew, was part of the state guards.
And what was his last name?
His surname was Camara.
And what was his first name, as far as you know?
No, as far I don't recollect his first name, but
was it Kausu?
Kausu Camara, that's right. Kausu Camara, yes, Kausu Camara. But his nickname was Bombardier. Pierre Mendy was also mentioned as being among the people who
did what?
Who brutalized my party supporters, Sadio Kunjansani, Yusuf Cham, that group of people. Pierre Mendy was also mentioned.
So in essence, what you were saying is that you were told by your party supporters that they were tortured by Daba Marena, Pierre Mendy, and Bombardier.
Yeah, they mentioned these people, yes.
As having tortured?
As having been among people, because those are the ones they could identify.
So these people are mentioned as perpetrators of torture?
Absolutely.
And as a result, Sadio Kunjang Singate died. Sane Kunjang Singate died.
No, well, she didn't die in 1997.
Yes, but she died as a result of those injuries. That's the suggestion.
That is what I believe. That is what I believe, yes.
You said you had to arrange for her injuries to be examined in private. Why was that decision taken?
No, in fact, I asked Zotembo to come in because I believe at that time she was the Executive Secretary for the African Center for Democracy and Human Rights Studies. So it is in the context of her involvement with human rights issues that I invited her to come in. I know she was in NCRC. I know she doesn't have any medical background, but at least I thought she, Sajo Kunyang, could feel comfortable to talk to a woman on what had happened to her, and even if necessary, show her parts of her body or her body. Yes, it is in that context that I invited Zotembo, because he was involved with international human rights issues.
Thank you very much for that. So it was during this period that you were making campaigns for the release of the political detainees, MC Cham and others, and it was subsequent to all these that they were released, correct?
Yes.
The problems that the UDP faced, inflicted by the AFPRC or the APRC at this time, did not end with the 1997 elections. But before we go to that, perhaps we should talk about the election results. You claim that you had won the elections and the elections were stolen. The win was given to the APRC. Can you expatiate on that?
Well, the results, as we have been released, we are leading throughout the country, and all of a sudden, for about 4 hours, there were no further releases of any results. In fact, we subsequently learned that collations were being done at State House. Votes cast for UDP were given to APRC. But at the end of that 4 hours, before results started coming in, heard the chairman, provisional chairman, distinctly say, "Can I go now?" Yes. I say this on oath, and I'm under oath. Heard the chairman distinctly say, "Can I go now?" That is asking the military boys to release him, to go to wherever he wants to go, and then after that, results started coming in.
So your suggestion, therefore, Mr. Dabo, is that the PIEC chairman at the time was taken hostage by the military boys, as
that is right.
them.
That is right.
And he had to ask for permission to leave.
That's right.
After it was convenient because the results have been doctored.
That is right.
Did you go to court on that issue?
We didn't go to court
If
all.
you had such evidence that would show.
We didn't go to court because look, at that time, whom did you have as Chief Justice of the Gambia? Al Ghali. It was a waste of time for anybody.
But Mr. Dabo, you would admit that it would not be a waste of time to bring out the evidence for the entire Gambian population to see and to appreciate that the elections were stolen against you.
It would not be a waste of time to bring out that evidence before a credible judiciary. But a judiciary that will reject such evidence.
But the higher judiciary would be the people. The people can see for themselves that the elections were indeed stolen.
Indeed, the higher judiciary will be the Gambian people, and there are several Gambians who heard the chairman say that statement. And in fact, there was a Commonwealth technical person, I think it was an Australian, who was attached to the PIEC. And when the results were declared, he left the Gambia in protest. A newspaper, Africa, I think the New Africa also, carried out the results. The copies that came in the Gambia were all confiscated. This is the truth.
Just to get a little more on this, for every polling station, I believe each party should have a representative. Isn't that the case, sir?
That is the case.
And for the counting, each candidate would be represented at the point of counting.
Should be represented. Should be represented.
Should be represented.
Should be represented.
And it is, in fact, the responsibility of the candidate or the party to ensure that their representative is present. Isn't that the case?
That is correct.
So if the candidate is not if the representative of the candidate is not present and irregularities happen, perhaps they are partly to be blamed for not being present and being able to see for themselves what's going on, isn't it?
That is to say, if the atmosphere allowed agents to be present at the counting stations.
Is it your suggestion, sir?
Let me because this evidence, this is what we have, remember, you have to follow the ballot boxes. In fact, ballot boxes were then transported to counting centers. They was not counting on the spot.
True. That is true, sir.
So the agents, our agents, we are not allowed to be part of the convoy that was escorting the ballot boxes to the counting center. The military had taken effective control. So our agents were really not allowed to be present at all the counting centers.
But isn't that a major or an important aberration from the normal procedure, isn't it?
That is why the elections was held universal has been flawed.
And wouldn't that be a significant ground to challenge the results? Because the objective elements that were put in place to ensure that the results were credible were in fact deliberately removed by the government that is in power.
That is correct. That is correct. But then, if you look at the constitution that allows for filing of petitions in presidential elections, it gives you only 15 days within which to file a petition. And in order for you to collate credible evidence, 15 days is just too short a period.
But I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this, sir. Wouldn't it be easy to get party representatives who've been excluded forcibly or deliberately from escorting the ballot boxes? Couldn't it be easy to just get them to sign the necessary affidavits within this period, within this window of 15 days? I would imagine that hammering out an affidavit should not take more than a day or two.
Yeah, hammering out of an affidavit shouldn't take more than a day or two, but then, any good affidavit, the depositions should be unassailable, and you can do that by really interrogating the deponent properly and getting at the bottom. Otherwise, just put up materials together and present it for purpose of just being an affidavit. But in any case, we felt that there was absolutely no use going to court, being presided over by Al-Ghali.
Is that to say
and if we did that, we were going to legitimize a flawed election.
So no petition whatsoever
no petition was filed.
Was
filed, and we will not file a petition to legitimize a flawed election because the judiciary, a judiciary that was being manipulated would just validate it and then we wouldn't have anything to say.
So you'd rather you don't go to court at all? So
Rather we don't go to court at all. When we deem it necessary to go to court, we did so.
Good. The point was just to understand why the UDP did not decide to take the legal process that was available under the Constitution, because it appears that the flaws that you mentioned could have been good grounds to bring election petitions.
Yeah, they are good grounds, but we knew that they are grounds that will never be accepted by the court as it was then constituted.
But then, well, I leave that point because it's not so central to what we are to do here. But of course, the stealing of an election is quite an important issue. And perhaps maybe the Commission could consider looking further into this particular issue, because many more elections would come in this country. And if there is room for elections to be stolen by anybody, perhaps this is one particular area in which Gambians would be so concerned as to want to look into all those loopholes and have them plugged. So, Mr. Dabo, let's proceed with what happened to the UDP, yourself and your supporters, after these particular elections. I would imagine that the harassment of the UDP supporters did not end with the 1997 elections. Tell us what happened afterwards.
Well, the harassment,
2001, for instance.
The harassment continued, persisted. I attended a conference in Botswana on good governance, and of course, it was a conference attended by opposition parties as well as ruling parties. And President Jammeh was there as representing the government of the Gambia, leading the government of the Gambia, and I was there as representing the United Democratic Party, the opposition, and I believe, Mr. Suleiman Diouf, the National Assembly member for Serakunda West, was there for APRC. And I believe this was later 1997 or early 1998. And on the day of my return, the UDP supporters went to the airport to receive me, and they organized a welcome ceremony for me. And the police would not let them. They wouldn't even let them go beyond the fence of the airport. Some managed to escape, and they had problems with the police. They say they would not allow them to blare the horns of their vehicles. Anybody who does so will be committing an offense. We really had a pull and pull with them until we came to Pipeline. Sankumbaji believed that he was DIG.
What do you mean by AIG?
DIG.
DIG? What do you mean by that?
Deputy Inspector. I believe he was then Deputy Inspector General of Police. He had the audacity of coming into my premises to say they would stop people from drumming. And my nephew, one of my nephews, Dembakanye, was arrested because they were protesting and resisting. He was arrested, and the following day he was released. Yeah. In fact, I think it took a couple of days. It took a couple of days at the police. And when one of my nieces took food for him, because he had a UDP T-shirt on, she was driven away. Fatu Dabo, daughter of my elder brother, M.M. Dabo, she was driven away. But the more harassment that was meted out to UDP, the more determined I became that this system, this situation, cannot allow it to really continue in this country. Yeah. Whatever it takes, I'm prepared for any consequences.
And in 2001, in June, you went again on a campaign. Tell us what happened.
I believe it was in
Numuyel.
Yeah, I believe it was. No, I believe it was in. I think it was in 2000.
All right, because, tell us about it.
In fact, we had planned for a tour of the URD. We had previously gone to URD, and during the presidential elections, we didn't do well in URD. But in the National Assembly elections, the presidential elections of 2001, we did better than APRC in URD. But in 2001, I went out what I call on mopping up operations, because we had really done the work and was just going really to do the finish up. I arranged for the team to meet me in Bansang on the 15th of June, because there was the GAMO the previous day, so I had to attend the GAMO. So after the GAMO, I was to proceed to URR. The team met me at Bansang, and we proceeded, and our first place of meeting was Julangel in Jimara constituency. Elements of APRC and July 22nd movement came in and started disrupting our meetings, and we warned them that they should desist. We never get near the APRC, wherever they are meeting, we never get near them. So they should not really come to our meetings and disrupt them. From Julangel, we proceeded to Numuyel, and we had the same disruption. And we were going to Gambisara, and the current Minister for Information, he was then a reporter for BBC, took advantage to interview me, and I indicated what was happening.
Could you mention his name,
Honorable Ibrahim Asila.
Indeed.
Honorable Ibrahim Asila. And I took advantage to let the world know how APRC was behaving, that they do not mean good for this country, because really the sort of thing they were doing could be a cause of destabilization in the country. And I did indicate that, what was happening, we knew, and they are provoking us. We will not give into provocation, but we will defend ourselves against any attacks by any individual or group of individuals. And we couldn't care who they are and at whose behest they were doing their provocative acts. We canceled our meeting in Gambisara and decided to proceed direct to Mansajang to hold a meeting, because it was getting late and we had to spend the night at Kular. At Mansajang, I think I was the only one who addressed the meeting, and we proceeded to Kular. But on getting to Chamoy Bridge, we were ambushed. Dr. Cisse and I were in his car again, this time again. He has always been with me on these major tours. Yeah. And all of a sudden I just saw stones being thrown at us. The windscreen, his windscreen got damaged, broken, and the driver acted very quickly and took a U-turn. And some of our boys alighted from their vehicles. Yeah. One girl, I think it's Aisha Sow, was among the people who were apprehended. Our women folk apprehended her, and I said, look, no one should touch any of those people. No one should be beaten. We should hand them over to the police and let them explain to the police who had assigned them to do this to us. Yeah. We went back, and again that night I spoke to Babkar Jata and told him that this was the situation that we have found ourselves in, and he said he asked me if I had got this on video. I said no, because we are not expecting it. I didn't get it on video. He said whether I spoke to the Inspector General of Police. I said no, I did not speak to the Inspector General of Police because it's useless for me to speak to the Inspector General of Police, Sankun Baji. He was probably one of the worst officers, security officers. He was only there to serve the cause of APRC. He was not there for country. Whatever could put down opposition in this country, that was his mission, as far as I said. So I said I wouldn't talk to him. So it was him that I spoke to.
And what position did Babukar occupy at this stage?
He was CDS. He was CDS. Yeah? And of course, when we surrendered these people to the girl to the police, and we proceeded to Kular till the following day, the 16th, when the...
During this event, did you have cause to pass through Tumana?
Well, Kular is in Tumana.
That's
in
right.
fact, Chamoy is in Tumana.
As far as you know, did any of your supporters die in this incident?
No, none of my supporters died.
Did you hear this story about a Mr. Njai?
Yes, that's a Mr. Njai, but that's an APRC supporter.
That's an APRC supporter?
That's an APRC supporter.
Who died, or allegedly died during this
incident, yes.
Do you know how that person died?
I don't know how he died.
Do you think that he was killed by his fellow APRC supporters?
I cannot say. I don't know how he died. I've never seen him.
It would be logical that he was killed by his fellow APRC supporters?
I've never seen him. But then, because the story is that I was subsequently charged for his murder.
I'm just trying to bring the same logic.
Yeah.
Earlier on, you did say that APRC supporters were assaulted at Westfield. And I asked you the question, who assaulted them?
UDP supporters were assaulted at Westfield.
Sorry, thanks for that correction. UDP supporters assaulted at Westfield. And you suggested that UDP supporters would not assault themselves. So they must have been assaulted by APRC supporters.
Yeah.
So equally, this Mr. Njai, APRC supporter, who died in this particular location, was he killed by APRC supporters?
I don't know. In fact, I don't know how he came by his death.
Would it be logical that he was killed by his fellow APRC supporters?
I cannot make any logical conclusion about that. I don't want to make any conclusions about that. One thing is that when we were at Kular, Mr. Sankare came and informed me that the Inspector General of Police had revoked the permit given to UDP for the URD tour. And I told him in no uncertain terms that I do not accept any verbal revocation of a permit that is given to me and is in writing. whatever revocation, it has to be in writing, and there has to be reason for it. Why the revocation? They communicated, and then some document was shown to me that the Inspector General of Police had in fact revoked the permit. And I called the national president of the party, Mr. Sam Silla, and I told him that, well, this is the situation we have found ourselves in, but I do not believe that our permit should be revoked, and I want to go. I intend to go on my campaign, on my tour. I will not really go back. But he advised that I should really, since the permit has been revoked, I should discontinue the tour. And Mr. Sankare wanted to escort us back to Basse police station, and some of my party officials were a little bit uneasy about that, because the July 22nd movement chaps had invaded URD when they heard of this incident that invaded URD. And they were apprehensive that if we were to be escorted by the police, we could be attacked by the July 22nd movement chaps. But my own reaction was that, look, he is the officer in charge. He is in charge of our security. He says he can give us protection. We'll have to go. And if he cannot give us the protection that we need, we'll protect ourselves. And he had a second thought and said, well, he would go back to Basse and get the soldiers to come and give us escort. And that confirmed the reason why some of my colleagues were uneasy about us being escorted by the police. We went back, they escorted us to Basse police station, spent the whole day, and I asked, why are we here? They said, well, they want us to give us protective escort to Banjul. I said, but we don't need it. You'll have to tell me whether I'm under arrest or not. You'll have to tell me that. Well, we'll know that maybe later in the day. Shortly after, a team came from Banjul of CID personnel. People that I recollect very clearly was, Mr. Bojang was amongst them. I think John Bojang, a very pleasant chap in the CID, and Mr. Malamin Sise. He was at one time Commissioner, Kairaba Station. Yes. They were people that I really recollect vividly. And of course, J. Sow. He was the CMC.
By CMC, you mean Crime
Management Coordinator. He was the CMC at the relevant time. And he was the one who treated us with contempt and disdain.
Who did that?
J. Sow.
J. Sow, you mean?
J. Sow, yes.
The CMC.
CMC.
And how did that happen?
The station officer had allowed us to receive telephone calls at the station. In fact, we were in his office. We were, myself and some members of leadership, Abu Karambagasam and others, we were in his office. Then he just came in and said, use the 4-lettered words, grab the telephone, and went away. And really, a lot of us, including myself, couldn't bear, that insult. And I really cried that a chap as young as that, he was in the same class with my kid brother, Alaji Ndabo. Was in the same class with him. Could come, use such foul language on us. But and the station officer insisted that we will use the telephone, that station, he has authority above the Inspector General of Police. it is his station, and what he wants to happen in his station, that is what, and he accorded us. But we said, look, please, we don't want you to lose your job. And he was immediately transferred, of course. I don't know what subsequently happened to him.
So, in all these things that happened, you were subsequently charged? We
were subsequently charged and arraigned before Magistrate Boriture, and he asked for our pleas to be taken, and we said no. I said no, because this court does not have jurisdiction to try murder cases, and plea taken.
His court was a magistrate
court, and plea taken is part of the trial. So we will not really enter any plea. We knew then that an application had been made for our bail, and it had been granted by Justice Kabalata.
What I'm first of all trying to drive at is, you were charged with murder.
Was charged with murder, yes.
Of this Mr.
Of this Mr. Njai, yes.
Were you told of the circumstances in which he died?
No.
Were you told of what conduct by you constituted the act of murder?
No. Well, the charge sheet simply said that a whole list of people, including Sajo Kunjansane.
Okay. How many of you were charged?
I think something close to 100 people. Sajo Kunjansane, Amadou Sane, all of us were there. I mean, but virtually the leadership of the United Democratic Party. I think Kemis and Jamia probably was the one who was absent from that. Yeah. Yes, the entire leadership of the United Democratic Party was on that, and including women leaders. But the only women charged were Sajo Kunjansane and Fatu Dabo. She is a resident of Bakau. I think it was figured that this must be Mr. Dabo's daughter or Mr. Dabo's sister. Yeah. And we knew that we are granted bail, and then we refused to take a plea, and Magistrate Boriture ordered that we be taken to the High Court for the matter of our bail to be looked into. So we are brought down. This what they call Anthony, these trucks, the big police trucks, we are carried in like like animals, and it was raining that day, raining very heavily.
Was there any tarpaulin cover?
No. Rain was on us, But to keep the morals, to keep our morals high, we went into singing. When you are, circumcision events, we just got into those songs, and we to keep ourselves alive, to ensure that our morals is not dampened. We arrived in Banjul about 2 o'clock, and the OC, Banjul Police Station, then one Mr. Jatabande says that, there was a conference room upstairs, and we should go. It was more comfortable there. We should go and pass the night there. And I rejected the invitation. So the order of the magistrate was that I should be kept at Banjul Police Station, and the following day be taken to the High Court. Because whilst we were at the station, we saw people going up and down. So for me, there was a likelihood that if you had accepted that invitation, some people could come upstairs, pick 1 or 2 of us, and then that would be the end of the end of our presence on this earth. And he also suggested that we could go home and come back the same day. I said no. What the order says that I should be in this station, and from here be taken to the High Court. So I'm not going home. Because I also figured that if I accepted that invitation, whilst I'm going home, I could be stopped at Denton Bridge, taken away, or any of my people taken away. So I always heard that there's some ill motive, some ill intention. So I always rejected those offers that looked, comfortable, put me in a comforting situation. So I rejected it. Until the following day, then we are taken to the Banjul High Court. Again, the offer was made that they want to drive us in a minibus that was air conditioned, and rejected. You drove me from Basse in an open truck. Now you don't want the people of Banjul to see me in an open truck. I'm driving in an open truck to go to the High Court. I'm not accepting any of your comforts that you want to extend to me. The High Court, all the bail conditions were fulfilled, and we are released to go home. And of course, continued with the song, and when I was leaving the High Court, I said, Mbesaila su kela no jultenna.
Could you say again?
Mbesaila su kela no jultenna.
What does that mean in English?
That I'm going home without being defeated by anyone or without being conquered by anyone. That's what we say when you are in the circumcision home. When one is leaving, that's what you say. Mbesaila su kela no jultenna. So that those who are there, if they want to respond, they can respond.
So what happened to this charge that you were facing?
I was subsequently an information was filed, and before then, the lawyers on the government side tried a lot to have the bail order set aside, but they couldn't succeed. In fact, with that bail granted to me, led to the amendment of Section 99 of the Criminal Procedure Code, so that the discretion vested in the trial court to grant bail for persons charged with murder was deleted, was repealed from our laws.
Essentially, a murder became an unbailable
offense. And really, sometimes when I sit down back, I say, look, I am the cause of this terrible amendment. Maybe if I was in charge for more and granted bail, this provision would not have been amended.
Did you subsequently have it amended?
Well, we don't have the opportunity yet of really restoring that.
Well, you became vice president, didn't you?
Eh?
You became vice president, didn't you?
Yes, I became vice president, but the chief legal advisor was the attorney general.
No, so, but as vice president, you are the second most important executive officer in this country.
That is absolutely correct. But as vice president, I was more concerned with what would promote the economy of this country than on procedural matters relating to trials and so forth.
But this was a very important rights issue, wasn't it?
It is an important rights issue, but it was a rights issue that was hinging on the discretion of the trial trial court, so that there was absolutely no guarantee that with the existence of the provision that one would be granted bail. So there wasn't that. So, but in any case, as vice president, I was more concerned for improving the social services and ensuring that the economy of this country picks up rather than those procedural matters. In fact, it would really be looking very self-serving, because any attempt to do that, some people say, well, you see, he's doing that because it affected him, or it was a result of what had happened to him.
No, it did not affect you at all.
No, it did not, but as a result of the dangers he had faced.
Mr. Dabo, it's now another opportunity to take a break. So we would leave it at that, and we'd see you in an hour time. Or is it, we'll see you at 2:30.
Thank you very much, Counsel. Extraordinary testimony and regarding electoral threats and intimidation. If we can continue this after the lunch break, that would be splendid. unless some commissioners have any questions before we break, you hold your questions until the end of the day. That's all right. Yeah. We would take a 1 hour break for lunch and come back at 2:30. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.